Now that we have WP Types Toolkit installed, I'm going to walk you through a demonstration of all the different functionality that it has to offer. Now I'm going to use an example in these videos that I think covers a lot of the similar functionality that you will. And so you can follow along and create your own custom post types and essentially just do the same as I'm doing if it applies to your needs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a restaurant business directory, essentially, or a website that would show restaurants in a different area. And what that's going to allow me to do is, first, it's going to allow me to show you how to create a custom post type, which will be our restaurants. I'm also going to show you how to create a child custom post type. And what that's going to be is it's going to be for restaurant reviews so that our users can submit reviews to the restaurants that we list. So that's going to show you creating custom post types that have a parent and child relationship, and that can be used for a lot of different things. It could be, if your custom post type was books, it could be book reviews. If it was classified ads, it could be responses. If it was a job site, it could be applications or resumes that are submitted. And when it comes to custom post types and their children, they don't all necessarily need to be displayed on the front end. So if you're doing resumes or applications, obviously you wouldn't want those stored on the, or listed on the front end, but you would want them to be stored in the back end. And so I can show you kind of how to do that. So in this scenario, we're going to create a restaurant business directory. We're going to have it available to leave for users, front end users, to leave reviews on those restaurants. And we're also going to go over actually creating views for our site so we can dictate how those restaurants are listed on our front end. We're going to cover content templates, which is managing how the full page restaurant page looks. So if they click on the title of a restaurant and they see that single view page of the restaurant, what that looks like. We're going to integrate our custom post types in with Google Maps. And we're going to do some access and permissions, as well as set up those forms on the front end with using CRED. So we're going to cover a lot of the functionality that the WP Types Toolkit covers, and I hope that you can use the process I go through to create your own custom post type. So even though your post types and your custom fields may be different, you can use the same process essentially, and same thing with the views. You may have different filters available, you may want to display them differently, but essentially it all works the same. So I'm hoping if I walk you through this example, you should be able to get the most out of the WP Types Toolkit. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our post types. So the first one is going to be our restaurant post type. So in order to create one, we're going to click on under Toolset, we're going to click on post types. And then on this screen, you can see our default options, media, pages, and posts that come standard with WordPress are listed here because we can actually use the standard content types and use that creating views and CRED forms and such for our standard post types. But in this scenario, we're going to create a new one. And so we're going to click on Add New. And then I'm going to put in the name. So this is the plural, so restaurants. And then the singular, restaurant. The slug will be created automatically, or you can type it in. We can also change the icon, which is how it's going to be displayed in the admin menu. And so I'll just use our globe icon. And then we can assign a taxonomy. Now this can share a taxonomy with your blog posts if you need it to, which would be these categories and tags. We can also create a custom taxonomy, and we're going to be doing that. So we're going to leave this part empty for the moment. And now we have some options about which fields these custom post types should have. So your custom post type may or may not require a title. If it doesn't, you can deselect this. Or it may just require a title and not require body content using that editor, in which case you can deselect that. You also have the ability to add comments, trackbacks, revisions, which store as a post or a custom post type is updated. It can store older copies or revisions of that work. We can display whether or not we want to select the author or change the author, whether it should have that excerpt field, a featured image, custom fields, page attributes, post formats, right? So we can decide what part of these we want to apply. I want to have a featured image, so I'm going to select that, and then we'll have title and editor. And I'll select the excerpt, so we can do excerpts as well. So that's it for now. We have some additional options, but generally we're not going to have, these are more kind of advanced options. We're not really going to need those So we can close that. And then we're also going to create a parent-child relationship, but we need to save the post type first. So I'm going to save the post type. And you can see here already we have our restaurants post type. We can list them all, or we can add a new one. But before I do that, I'm going to go to taxonomies, and I'm going to create a custom taxonomy for our restaurant. So this means I want the ability to have restaurant categories, which are only specific to my restaurant. So I'm going to click Add New. And then I'm just going to type in restaurant categories and restaurant category. And then I'm going to select restaurants as the post type that this should apply to. And I'm going to pick article, which is how our standard categories work, and flat are tags. So these are standard categories and flat as tags. You can add either one of these kind of custom taxonomies, right? So I've selected restaurants, and I'm going to save that taxonomy. And now if we go back into post types, and you can see taxonomies that are applied, restaurant categories, okay? So now I'm just going to quickly add a second post type, and this is going to be for restaurant reviews. So I'll just type in reviews for the plural, review for the singular. These aren't going to have any kind of categories. And then under the fields, we're just going to have title and editor. We're not going to need any of this, the rest of this stuff. And then we can click on Save Post Type. And then we'll go down below, and we have parent and children post types. So this is our review, and that's going to be the child of our restaurant. So we want parent post types, and we're going to click on restaurant. And basically what that does is the parent-child relationship. So a restaurant can have multiple reviews, but one review can only have one parent. So a parent can have many children, but children only have one parent. All right, so a review can only apply to one restaurant, but a restaurant can have several reviews. And that's how the parent-child relationship works. So now we've selected parent as a child to review. So each review is going to be applied to a specific restaurant. All right, so now we have our two post types, restaurants and reviews, and now we're going to add custom fields to our restaurant. Right, so we're going to go to post fields. We're going to add a new group, and this is going to be for our restaurant. So these custom fields that we're going to create should be applied to our restaurant post type. So I'm just going to do restaurant custom fields, and I'm going to click Save Field Group. And then after that, very important, is we're going to go where to include this field group. Click on Edit and select Restaurants. Otherwise, this is going to be applied to all of our post types. So now we're going to add some fields, and I'm going to keep this pretty basic. I'm just going to select, let's say, a phone number field. And that's just going to be a phone number field, and we'll say this is required. And then we will add an address field. And then we're going to do a checkbox. All right, and we're going to say delivery. And under value to show, we're going to click on show one of these two values. If it is not selected, we're going to click no, or we're going to display no. And if it is selected, we're going to say yes. So when we're creating a restaurant, if they have delivery, they're going to check that box. And if they don't have delivery, they're going to do I'll leave it unchecked, and that'll default to no. And we can use that later on in our views to filter restaurants, right? So I'm adding this field because I want to show you that when we create views, based on the information input into the restaurant post type, or into our post type, we can then filter by that information. All right, so that's good enough to start with. And actually, let's add just an email field, right? We'll add an email field. Validate that, and we'll make that required. And I'll just drag that above delivery. So now we're going to save our field group, and so now we have two custom post types, restaurants and reviews. And you can see here on the left, all items, add new, and we can also manage our restaurant categories. And then we have our reviews, all right? And now we've added our custom fields to our custom post type restaurant. So now we have our two custom post types. We have restaurants and reviews. We've created a custom taxonomy for our restaurant post type, and we've given that restaurant post type some custom fields. In the next video, we're going to create some demo content, and then we're going to start getting into views so we can decide how that content should be displayed on the front end.